both work session and a little bit of business, and I'd like to welcome everyone. And I'd like to start off by the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence following. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And may be seated. And Dr. Roll, roll call. Mrs. Scott. Mrs. Wise. Here. Mr. Irwin.
Present.
Mrs. Killian. Present. Mrs. Lohr. Present. Ms. Lauer. Present. Dr. Powers. Here. Our vision and mission statement: working together with our community, we inspire our students to discover their talents and rise to their greatest potential. Our mission is building on the strengths of our diverse community to create an engaging, comprehensive educational environment that supports the growth of lifelong learners. On the agenda for some business, we have our personnel report and special leave request. Mr. Michael Cox.
President Killian, Superintendent Hayworth, members of the Board of Trustees, administration seeks approval of the personnel report as amended tonight.
I'll make a motion to accept the personnel report and these amendments.
I second that with gratitude to Mr. Cox, Mrs. DeHart, Mrs. Wilson.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions from the board? Roll call, please. Ms. Scott.
Aye.
Mrs. Wise.
Aye.
Mr. Irwin.
Aye.
Mrs. Killian. Aye. Mrs. Lohr.
Aye.
Ms. Lauer.
Aye.
Dr. Powers.
Aye.
Next, we have tentative agreements from Mr. Cox.
President Killian, Superintendent Hayworth, members of the Board of Trustees, I come tonight before you to bring our adjusted administrative pay scales of each group within our corporation. If you remember, in November, we brought forth teachers' compensation model, and now tonight I would like to bring forth all other groups within the Vigo County School Corporation. I'd like to go over each group with you this evening. Everybody hear me? Different version of everybody staring at me this way. I'm facing you. So. First group, admin clerical. Admin clerical, this evening, we would, at this time, provide them a new model compensation. They would be placed at the initial step and receive one more this year. The second year, they would move one step. If we had looked at each of our pay scales and salary schedules over the last several years, they were adjusted because percentages across the board. They did not make sense at this point in time. So working with Mrs. DeHart, Donna, in the business office, we dissected each pay scale and worked on bringing forth a model that should be able to withstand 2 years. With the admin clerical, the starting salary for that group would be $14.50 and the max at $23. There will be a minimum guarantee of $1,500 that first year. There may be individuals at that point in time that are over top of the 23, they would receive that $1,500 as a stipend. The second year is also a minimum $1,500 guarantee and or one step. Technical and managerial groups used to have separate handbooks. To this point, this year, we have brought them together as one. And that first year, this year, they would be placed on the new pay scale. The second year, they would also get another step. Any group that is over top of that scale, and if you remember, each time we talk about these pay scales, there's going to be a maximum. There's a cap at each of those pay scales, as we have done with teachers in the past year. They would receive $2,000 if they are over top of that salary schedule. That first year, and the second year would be $1,000. Custodial maintenance group would be placed on a new salary schedule and receive that one step that first year. It would be guaranteed $1,500 because, again, with those salary schedules, they are capped. We do have a few custodians who would meet that limitation, so they would receive a $1,500 stipend. The second year, they would also receive a step if they're under that cap, and or a $1,500 stipend. School secretaries would begin a new salary schedule at $14, that's out at $21. We have quite a few individuals in that first realm, so we would need to place them and provide them a step. Their salary schedules are at 50-cent increments. That is, again, a common thread in many of our salary schedules that we have provided 50-cent increments. Custodian maintenance is in that same realm. Admin clerical are in that same realm. So school secretaries, they would be placed, they would get one step, and or a $1,500 minimum guarantee. We will have some secretaries that are over that $23 amount, we would provide them a stipend at that time. The second year, same format, they would provide one movement on that new salary schedule and or $1,500 stipend. Bus drivers, if people are listening at home, you're looking for bus drivers, so it's my free commercial. I'm wanting bus drivers to please apply. We did have 4 different classifications of bus drivers. At this point in time, we have moved all of those to one classification. It was based off the miles that they drive. Bus drivers is difficult to drive 4 miles or 100 miles. We have moved them all to one class. They would receive $105 a day salary. The in-between trips that some of them move, or CBI, or athletic events, there is a additional stipend that they would get for that. Right now, we pay them $12.50 for doing that per hour. We would move that to $15 this year, this board year. Next year, at the start of school, we move that from $15 to $18. They also have a minimum guarantee of $1,000, because we will have some individuals that meet that plateau of 105. And so those individuals that are over top of that, we've got some bus drivers that have been with us for a very long time, and we appreciate that, would receive $1,000 stipend. Remember, bus drivers go back to the beginning of school. They're all the way back to the beginning of school. Health service assistants. Health service assistants are individuals that take care of our students that have medical needs during the school day, overseen by nurses, our nurses. We revamp their salary schedule. They are 50-cent increments. We would take them and place them on a salary schedule, a new salary schedule. We have a few that's been with us for a while, and they would move one step. The second year, those individuals would move one step on that new salary schedule. SPOs, dollar rate is $21.63 right now. We would move them to $22 for this year and next. Educational assistants. Educational assistants, we have several of those individuals, and they have been with us for quite a long time. We have reevaluated their salary schedule, and we have come back and identified 25-cent increments for that salary schedule. But this year, people that are returning to us from last year, we would take them, place them on the salary schedule, and then move them one more step. That way, we have separation from people that have been here with us previous year to the ones that we've hired this year. We've hired quite a few this year. That starting salary for the people at this year is $12.25. Dr. Hayward.
Can you remind me the number of educational assistants we have in the district?
345. There are quite a few of them within that first year that have been with us and been on that first step for quite a while. I believe there are about 186 of them. And those individuals are the ones that we would make sure that we move up, place, and move. So there's a division between individuals hired this year and ones that have been with us for several years. Food services. We've revisited their salary schedule. They're at 50-cent increments. We would place them and move them one step this year, and next year we would move that group that is under the cap another step. The managers that work 8 hours for us would be compensated with an additional stipend of $776, because they are the ones that can deal with different kitchen assistants, evaluations of those individuals, and so forth. So we would compensate them at another stipend. Miscellaneous classified is a large group of individuals that do not fit into other handbooks, and at that point in time, we did not have a salary. There were ranges. We came back with different salary schedules. Some of them started $18, $18.50, $19. We provided them with 50-cent increments over the next 2 years, and those individuals would be moving accordingly. That is behavioral assistants, behavioral interventionists, SLPAs, daycare supervisors, all fit into that particular handbook. And building trades supervisors, ones that help in developing those houses. Administrators, group administration, we revisited its salary schedule. We did take that particular group, and we did put a cap on that, as we did teachers, because over the years of providing percent raises across the board has caused each of the salary steps to not be capable of moving. So we revisited those, and we did lower the top salary for directors and all principals, assistant principals, all the way down. This year, individuals will be placed on a new salary schedule, and we guarantee them a minimum $2,000. The next year, they would move one step. We would also, at this point in time, like to offer administrators the same buyout as we have teachers, and that would be at $25,500. They would have to be with us for at least 10 years. Within the corporation, would be age 55. We would expect those letters of intent being turned into us after spring break. With that particular overview of each salary schedule, we would look for approval to put those in our handbooks and then get those posted out on the website. We still have a couple of handbooks that need some amendments and red line copies. We need them signed by custodians, because those are bargaining groups, and school secretaries, because they are bargaining groups. We would look to take care of them first, because they are our bargaining groups, and then we would move to the remainder of the. Questions?
You did an amazing job. Something that hadn't been updated for over a decade, made it into a readable document that's fair and across the board and easy to understand for all the groups that are included in it. Kudos to you and Mrs. DeHart and Mrs. Wilson.
A lot of help. And I appreciate that.
You know, to add to that, though, Joni, is all the negotiating teams from all of these different groups. I mean, it's a lot, tremendous amount of time, especially for your team, to go meet with each group, but a lot of time for each of them too to take out of their workday or extra time and think seriously about, you know, what's needed and what's possible, and so, you know, kudos to everybody.
I'd like to move approval of the signed agreement, so we can sign what's tonight.
I'll second that.
I have a motion for approval and a second. Are there any other questions before I vote? Dr. Gold?
Ms. Scott? Mrs. Wise? Mr. Irwin?
Aye.
Mrs. Killian?
Aye.
Mrs. Lohr? Ms. Lauer?
Aye.
Dr. Powers?
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You can breathe a little bit now.
That concludes our business portion of the meeting, and next is our work session portion with the presentation for a new work-based learning program for the 22-23 school year. Mr. Doug Gillian, our VCSC Director.
Superintendent Hayward, President Killian, Board of School Trustees. Superintendent Hayward told me I had 2.5 hours, or maybe it was 25 minutes. I can't remember which. I got a stopwatch going here, and
I got mine started too.
yeah, we bet. I think we bet a candy bar on this, because I believe in eating healthy.
It's always the over.
I do want to start out, want to show you a little video. Sorry about the sound on quality, but it's where I got it. So I want you to watch this real quickly.
Did you know some of the most in-demand jobs in Indiana and Illinois don't require a 4-year degree? TV10, Duke Energy, Culver's, and Work West want to help you choose a career in ag, ranging from scientists to engineers to farm technicians and operators. Become Workforce Fit. Join Future Farmers of America and your local school to learn industry skills, including service and leadership. Go to WTHITV.com to learn more. Workforce Fit is sponsored by TV10, Duke Energy, Culver's, and Work West.
And I want you just to remember that commercial, because I'm going to talk more about it here in just a moment. If you look up on the screen, there's 3 different logos. Of course, the school corporation logo, and then in the middle is the actual state work-based learning logo, or their new state work-based learning and apprenticeship logo. And then on the far side, you'll see that Workforce Fit logo. And as of a month ago, our region decided to brand that logo as our official work-based learning logo, and we are the first school corporation to get approval to use it as our work-based learning logo in the region. And so this is our official version of it, and it says Terre Haute Workforce Fit Community. And so every student that's in the work-based learning program, they will be presented by our Workforce Investment Board. If they successfully complete the program, we'll actually get a certificate from our Workforce Investment Board, and it will have this official logo on it. Every company that participates will get a sticker with this official logo, and so this is our branding, and our Workforce Investment Board decided this is going to be our branding for Western Indiana. Now, I showed you that commercial because 2.5 years ago, when they started this branding, they made a series of commercials, and those commercials ran, and that was the ad commercial. I picked that one because I thought Hank would appreciate that commercial. But we ran a series of commercials, and they ran in 6-month chunks, and these are the examples of the commercials that ran. And actually, Health Careers and Ag just finished up, and we're debating whether to re-up another series, but they are also available on the workforce board websites, as well as several community websites. And they've been sent out to all the college and career programs, and so they're shown to kids also. And there are local industries in the commercials, local kids in the commercials. That student driving the one older tractor, I joke with him, he's actually a Terrell South student, and he drove that tractor to drive a tractor to school day. That tractor's been on South's parking lot. That's why I want to share that commercial, because those commercials are actually ran on TV regularly. They're actually available on websites and things. Now, when we talk work-based learning, it's something that was popular back in the 80s, and then it got less popular in the 90s, and then the state changed some rules, and in the early 2000s, it kind of died off. And now it's coming back, and it's gaining popularity. And our school corporation, under Superintendent Hayworth's leadership, decided to make a significant investment in it. And just to show you our partners for next year for work-based learning, these next 2 slides show you the partners that have signed on for next year. And when I say signed on, that means these partners have committed to taking at least one work-based learning student. They've completed all the paperwork, have done all the advanced work, and they said for the 22-23 school year, they're going to take at least one high school student from Eagle County in work-based learning. And they did it, we had a certain deadline for them to be in the curriculum guides. And so these are all companies that have made commitments. So this is page 1. There's page 2. So there's 27 companies that hit that deadline. Now, here's the funny thing. Our goal was like 10 companies. We had 27 that hit the deadline. Well, here's what we didn't count for. I have a couple people working on this, and I'm going to introduce them here in a minute. We didn't account for the companies that did hit the deadline. What do we do when they contact us later? Can't turn companies away. Well, now we're well over 30 companies. So now I'm getting nervous about having enough kids in all these different career pathways ready to go out. Well, these are the ladies that are in charge of this, and how we came about getting people in charge of this was Superintendent Hayworth, and he actually, 2 years ago, he said, Doug, got to get our act together on this. And so we put it in Perkins grant, which is a federal grant, because we had to figure out, if you don't dedicate resources towards something, it doesn't get better. And so had to find people to put some muscle behind it. And so I got part of that muscle here tonight, and she's actually the coordinator of it. And Sue McMullen, would you stand up and give away? So this is Sue McMullen. She actually retired as a teacher. It was before 2000, wasn't it? 1998. She actually taught our director of elementary ed in elementary school. But she's been teaching in adult ed for us ever since. And she actually does our adult education orientations. So I asked her if she'd help coordinate this project. She's very good at going out and talking to people. I didn't know she was this good and was going to get this many people signed on so quickly. And to help her, during the winter months, our person The other person, Ivy, is a person that's been helping with the NEAT trailer during the spring and fall. So these two young ladies have been coordinating this effort, and now they're to the point where we're signing up students, or getting ready to sign up students. So, when we talk about work-based learning, these next few slides, I'm going to go through kind of quickly, because I want to get to some meat and potatoes. We talk about, we look at 3 different phases. We look at employer benefits, and basically the first bullet and the last bullet are the 2 I want you to pay attention to. Because you think reduce training costs, and basically where it helps employers is it causes them to have a better industry connection with us in education. And when they have that better industry connection with us, we all of a sudden understand their needs better. So we're all of a sudden teaching kids differently. And then that last bullet, they're making an investment in the future workforce. Those are huge for them, because they're the ones that are going to eventually employ the kids. Then you drop down to the next slide, the school part. The first 2 bullets are key. What determines if a student is a good candidate for work-based learning? You say attendance, grades, discipline, cooperative attitude, but it's really attendance and that attitude. And when you say attendance, it's molding kids so they're on time and ready to work. That is a big deal in the workforce nowadays. And on time doesn't mean 2 minutes late. That means getting to work before it's time to start, and then getting ready to work so when it's time to start, they're ready to start. And then a cooperative attitude. This is the interesting thing. Positive attitude goes a long way, but it's the willingness to listen, and it's the ability to understand when they don't know something. Because if you're a company that has a $500,000 machine, you don't want a kid, a high school kid, going over there thinking they know how to run it. You want that kid to recognize that they learned on a $40,000 machine and they may not know everything. You want them to stop and go ask questions before they push the buttons on the $500,000 machine. So you want them to have the capacity to learn, the capacity to stop and ask questions. And that, of course, the school is critical. We got 3 different schedule options. They can be out 5th, 6th, and 7th hour, 6th and 7th hour, or 7th hour, and then work after school some to earn the credits. And of course, 3-2 or 1 credit, or 3-2 and extra credits for working after school. So that's the school piece. And I hate not being able to lick my fingers. Then the key thing is the CT teacher. And 2 things I want to point out there is the teacher is important for being able to align with the industry, their curriculum and standards. And then the second bullet, you say resolve issues between student and employer. You would think that would be like a student misbehaving at work. Well, no, because the employer's just going to fire the student then. But a common thing that happens is an employer understanding where a student's knowledge really sits and what a student's capabilities. And that's where the teacher is critical. The teacher's got to help that employer understand if Mr. Cox is an employer and he has little Joni coming to work for him. He doesn't know how much knowledge little Joni has in the auto service industry, really. he doesn't know if he can have little Joni tear apart and rebuild a transmission. And so his only way to know that is to have little Joni say, Joni, go rebuild that transmission. And if Joni's shy, Joni's going to go over and try it. But as the teacher, if I'm a good teacher, I'm going to communicate to Mr. Cox, say, hey, we're not to transmissions yet. We haven't covered that well. She hasn't mastered that. You know, this is where you need to start her. You need to start her, you know, changing, remounting tires, doing oil changes. She can rebuild a front end. She can set up for alignment, but we don't have, you know, the same kind of alignment system you do. So you're going to have to teach her the alignment system. And when you teach her, she's kind of shy, so she's not going to ask questions. So you're going to have to make her tell you what she saw to make sure she understands. And that's going to be like resolving problems, because if you don't, if the teacher doesn't do that, an employer's not a teacher. And there's going to be problems there in the workforce. That's probably the most common place that there's problems. And then the last group is the student, parent, guardian piece. Basically, a student qualifies for work-based learning if they finish 4 credits in a career pathway. Then they can apply. Now, if they finish 4 credits in the career pathway, they got to sign up and continue in the career pathway. Where if they've completed an entire career pathway, and I put these guides out just so you kind of get an idea of what the career pathways are. These are guides we ordered for freshmen and sophomores for our counselors to kind of hand out to help give, so parents can kind of get an idea. This is a generic thing all the CT directors worked on with the state to kind of have a professional version of something to hand out statewide. If they completed the entire pathway, let's say they came in their freshman year, they knew exactly what they wanted, they got to their senior year, they completed the pathway. Guess what? They don't have to take any more classes in the pathway. But as the teacher, I've got a great relationship with Joni because I've had her for 3 years. So I can call that workforce and I can say, hey, Joni's great with this, this, and this. You know, you have any problems, you contact me. I've taught Joni for 3 years. So they got at least 4 credits or complete the pathway. Now, here's the trick, and this was a big sticking point when we started meeting with industries. They have to fill out the job application, just like any other job. They have to go through the interview process and learn from the interview process. And our companies are going to give them feedback if they mess it up real bad. Our companies are going to pick. They want to interview at least 3 kids. So the kids learn from not getting a position also. And they've got to do all the mandatory steps and tests that a company may have, which includes mandatory drug testing. Because they want to send a clear message. This is what the real workforce is like. Because a big piece is those employability skills. Now, you'll notice the second to last bullet I have written at the end, HB 1094. That is a House bill that actually has a lot of support. It's got a lot of support from the legislature on both sides of the fence, and it's got a lot of support from industry right now. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it because it requires the Indiana Department of Workforce Development, the way it's written right now, to provide liability and workman's comp insurance for all students that are in a work-based learning program. That is a big deal for a community that has high poverty, because that fixes the insurance problem, which is sometimes a huge challenge for companies. And sometimes it's a huge concern for parents. So, if someone ever asks you, hey, what's your feelings on 1094? We support it as long as the state funds it. We don't want to fund it as a school district, we don't want individual school districts to fund it, but we want the state to fund it. Now, of course, if you look at goals and benefits, there's lots of benefits for both the employer and the student. Obviously, this credential is a big deal. Greater Clark was the first place that came out and branded a credential. I'm excited that our region's branding a credential. The state had a credential, they branded, and now the state stopped for some reason and are restructuring the whole state structure. The second to last bullet, that possible post-secondary path, I'm going to give some examples here in just a minute. That is a big deal because that post-secondary path, there is money involved in that, so I want to talk about that also. And the most important thing, a living wage for our students. This is an example of part of the application that the kids fill out. It's not a hard application. We include it right in the curriculum guide. Sue and Heidi have made packets for the students, the employer, and the school. So it's really simple to participate. And this is where I want to get into some nuts and bolts. And I want to go through some of the specialty work-based learning programs. Because some of them do look different. And our goal is to have a program for every CTE pathway. Crikey, my man. All right, so education professions. This one is a partnership with ISU, and this is one of the, what I call non-traditional work-based learning programs, because this focuses more on, the work-based learning happens in college, but, I know, 5 minutes. He's pointing it out. And what's cool about this is kids earn 15 college credits, so they start in high school. But here's the real cool part. When you get to the capstone, your senior year in high school, you're not going to do that at South or North or West. You're going to actually go to ISU's campus, and you're going to do those courses. You're going to spend half a day on ISU's campus in the College of Education. And one of the classes you're going to do is SPED 226. All you teachers out there remember SPED 226. It's a requirement for LED, it's a requirement for secondary ed. And after that, you're going to pick whether you're LED focused or secondary ed focused. And the reason we work real hard on this part with ISU is because, yeah, we need LED teachers, but we really need secondary ed teachers. And that SPED class is really important. We want it to be dynamic. We want it to be that first class they take on ISU's campus. Because what do we need more than secondary ed teachers? Special ed teachers. So we want them to have that first experience on ISU's campus, which was known as a teaching college. So they're going to go to the College of Education, which is absolutely an awesome building. And so we want to hook them in. So even without the college tour, they're going to have 15 college credits, which is almost a semester. It's basically a semester in education classes. Then you add Common Core college core classes. They could have a year to where they can add specialty areas, like if they wanted to add technology education as the degree, or business ed, or something like that, that I happen to think is important. Or double up and get math ed and special ed, or something. So that's an example. Now, you're saying, well, where's the work-based learning? Well, it's called student teaching, or the total program. So the work-based learning doesn't happen until they're in college, in that case. Now, we jump down to the next one. This one happens to be with Ivy Tech. And there's two here. There's a precision ag and a general agriculture. And this one, the kids can actually earn a technical certificate while they're still in high school, as long as they get 3 core classes, the Com 104, Math 122, and English 111. They'll have to get those in the core. Otherwise, all they're going to do is they're going to take the principal's bag, the freshman or sophomore year, and then they're going to give up 2 hours in the morning that next year, and then the next year, the third year, they're going to give up 3 hours, and they're basically going to earn 30 college credits in that ag pathway. Then plus those before, and when they're done with high school, they're going to have a technical certificate, and they're going to be real close to a full-blown associate's degree. Now think about that. A technical certificate in precision ag is a huge deal. That's a high demand. That's high-tech stuff. So they're going to go to Ivy Tech and do that. Now you're saying general ag. Why general ag? Well, general ag covers plants and animals. So if a kid's thinking, well, gee, I don't know, am I more interested in plants, more interested in animals? We're not making them choose. They're going to do both. So that's another example. I can't believe I lost.
You got 10 seconds.
I know.
You can't believe,
I didn't-
you can't believe you don't.
I can't believe I lost. I won last time. So this is the ag one. So that's the ag. I forgot to switch screens. So then the next one, we have health groups, and everybody thinks, well, our health careers, our nursing's been around forever. But what hasn't been around forever is a federally registered apprenticeship that we now have in our community with health careers, which is pretty doggone cool, because the shortage is so bad. So basically, our kids can now go through the nursing pro pathway, earn their 14 and a half college credits in the nursing pathway. That's the top one. Now, if they take anatomy and physiology, which we encourage them, that's another 6 college credits. And then, now we have it, so with this new next level programs of study, they back it up. They have a choice where they can either job shadow or do a full-blown work-based learning in CMA the second semester. And then they have the option, the kids that do this path, they can actually apply for the apprenticeship program through Union Hospital. Now, this new federally registered apprenticeship program that's being stood up at Union, what it basically is that you'll be able to work some days and then go to school some days. So basically, you'll work, your paid work helps pay for your schooling. So like a kid that's a first-generation college student that maybe doesn't have the means to become a nurse, or they'll actually be able to work and offset their expenses. And also earn clinical hours and get paid while they're earning their clinical hours. Now, the one down at the bottom, we're waiting, I'm real hopeful that we're going to get a grant. If we get a grant, we're going to stand something similar to that up for CCMA, which is Certified Medical Assistants. We're going to hopefully know in the next few days on a grant. So we're real excited about that. And we have something similar for EMS, where the kids get 13 and a half college credits. Another example, and this goes straight to another federally registered. The union trades, all their programs are federally registered apprenticeships. The difference is we're actually working a little backwards now. we're actually going to be able to offer the kids, where we used to only be able to offer 5 credits, college credits. We're now going to be able to offer them 19 to 22 college credits, plus 2 industry credentials in this pathway, specialized college credits. And to give you an idea, in this partnership with the Carpenters Union, we've had sometimes as many as 6 kids go into the apprenticeship program, and that's a federally registered apprenticeship. So that's a long-standing partnership, but the neat thing about this new pathway model is, in this case, we got to add college credits. So let's say they decide they want to go into the construction management route and work for a Thompson Thrift or Garmong in the management side, they're going to have the college credits to go along with it. And by the way, federally registered apprenticeships, that's usually not at the high school level. That's something that's a post-secondary partnership or an industry partnership. And so in summary, for example, I'm on the Workforce Investment Board. I'm lucky enough to get to serve on that. So I get to work on those also. For example, right now, with this new model, in our region, the Workforce Investment Board sponsors the registered apprenticeship, federally registered apprenticeships in our region. So right now, we're working on standing up. We've either stood up or in the process of standing up 3 additional federally registered apprenticeships. We've got one in auto service, and it's working with 15 different auto dealers and auto service things. That's why so many are signed up for work-based learning, because they want to decide who goes into the federally registered, who goes through our work-based learning program. And it'll start out, they'll go to school 3 days a week, work 2 days a week, and then eventually it'll flip-flop, and eventually it'll be 1-4. And then we just got approved for a Great Dane federally registered apprenticeship at their Plant 3. For those of you that didn't know it, Great Dane's building the 3rd plant in our region, and it's actually in Terre Haute. It's their 12th plant in the United States. 3 of those 12 plants are in our region, 2 in Terre Haute, 1 in Clay County. That's pretty awesome. Trailer manufacturer. And then we're working on one with GE Aviation right now. And GE Aviation actually has said they want theirs to be all high school kids that go through a very specific sequence career pathway, and then go through the work-based learning program to go into their apprenticeship program is what they're thinking right now. So we're pretty excited about it. You know, these programs like what GE's talking about, you know, they can be free or reduced cost for students. So it's a really big deal. And my last slide, I just kind of like this quote. If you're going to grow in industry, you're going to continue to learn. So that's our goal, is to help kids learn and grow and make a living wage and be successful. That's all I got. I'll take any questions. I'm just real excited. Thank you, Sue, for all your hard work, and Tony, thank you. And sorry I went over by 7 minutes and 8 seconds. I can't believe I lost.
Donuts in the morning from you.
Don't ever apologize. You do such a great job, and the enthusiasm and the passion you've got. I just wish every employer could hear you speak as well as every student. Do you go to union trade meetings and present this to them? Or?
Yeah, actually, the union trades have been very good. about working with us, and employers have also. Our thing now is we've got to get our students, this new model of next level programs of study, it's new. This year is our first year for the principals class, and we're aligning this work-based learning with this new model. So we're gonna have very few kids that are ready for the capstone. We're aligning everything to the new model. So every year, we'll have more and more kids. So really, in 2 years, we'll kind of get full capacity of kids. So we're trying to build up to full capacity and build our reputation right now with the vision of in 2 years is when the hope and goal is to have 300 kids out in companies and stuff. So, yeah, I think once we start proving ourselves, I don't think anybody will turn us down. A big thing, the larger the company is, you know, the more hurdles. Like I know GE, their attorney spent time talking to me. Hydrite, they had an attorney from Chicago that called and had 6 conversations with me. Now, Hydrite is a chemical plant. I was kind of surprised that after 6 conversations with me and one with Daryl Zeck at the state and I, that they signed on and they didn't even keep an age requirement. That one kind of surprised me, but you know, it just takes time. So when companies start seeing other companies do it, I don't think it'll be a problem. But the union trades are very supportive.
And do you meet in group with the school counselors?
Yeah, well, we've been having Zoom meetings right now. Fern is planning an in-person meeting to kind of re-go over things because it's more than just rolling out work-based learning. Sue and Ivy are going around and meeting with the counselors on this specifically, but we've been talking about the overall picture because when you start talking about implementing the plan and those classes you saw in those snapshots, it's really important that like a kid that's in the principal's class, that they take that next class in a sequence in the correct order and the next class, and if they're in a 2-hour block, that the kid gets scheduled in that 2-hour block, like a kid wanting to do the ag, general ag pathway, it's real important they get scheduled in the morning so they can travel to Ivy Tech, or a kid that's wanting to go to ISU, it's real important that they get the concentrator A and concentrator B done by the end of the junior year, and other required classes, so they have a half day free their senior year. So if they're also wanting to earn an academic honors and technical honors, they need to have their 3 years of foreign language done in time. So there's all those little, I call them idiosyncrasies that you know, it's about educating everybody and making sure everybody understands that you got to make sure that we have kids in the right place, so at the right time they're ready.
It's just like Joni said, though, in complimenting Michael and his team, that everything was laid out so it was visible and understandable and clear to the layperson. It sounds like there needs to be like a Candyland board game or something, that there is, you know, there are pathways, and even if there are forks in the road or whatever, that the kid or a parent could actually follow it, because there's so many choices. But you know, I've heard of students get to their senior year and you know they skipped a class in the path, and that's not good.
That's what we're trying to do here. So you take that, and that, and that, and that.
Just so they've got that.
Yes, that's actually copied and pasted right out of the curriculum guides for all the schools. So it tells exactly what, and then there's actual descriptions below. But we added those visual graphics to help them see. And we tested several versions, and we sent it out to some parents, some students, some counselors, and some teachers, and got feedback. Because the first version, what I thought made sense, turned out was too complicated, and we actually took some numbers off and took some other things, because I was putting the whole, all the numbers, and we only put the DOE number and took some extra stuff off there and things, and simplified it greatly.
Could be easily overwhelming.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you.
Yes.
So I'm glad you mentioned House Bill 1094. There's a section in there that talks about adding another qualifier, youth apprenticeships, under the Department of Workforce Development's different categories for CTE. So if our kids are enrolled in this program, are they going to qualify for that? And that extra funding that comes with it, that would be part of it, right?
Yeah, youth apprenticeships would just be another model. So that extra qualifier, so it would still count for work-based learning, and they're talking about adding youth apprenticeships would be another model also.
Right, my question is, do you think this will qualify for that and potentially bring in extra funding?
Yeah, well, this qualifies for the amount of this qualifies for that max amount of funding right now. They're talking about matching youth apprenticeships to the amount of funding this gets. They just raised the amount of funding for this. They just took this from $150 to $500. They're talking about taking youth apprenticeships to $500.
So you're saying this is separate, this would be different from a youth apprenticeship?
Yes.
Separate?
That's
what I was trying to get at. Thank you.
Yeah, this is separate. So work-based learning used to be fund, they dropped the funding down to $150 in the mid-2000s. They just raised it back up to $500. They're talking about putting youth apprenticeships on the funding crosswalk and funding it the same amount as work-based learning and funding it at $500. Now, a kid couldn't do work-based learning and youth apprenticeship. They can only get funding for one. And it doesn't matter how many credits, they only get one time singular funding.
Okay, thank you.
Doug, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman.
Sorry I went over so much.
Now, coffee and donuts.
It looks like our future meeting is our business meeting on Monday, February 28th at 6 p.m. here. Is there anything else?
Yes, I recently reviewed Beaver High School Corporation's submission for the readiness grant. It was developed and submitted beginning of last summer. And I noticed in there that in this submission, our submission to the readiness grant, it was for the Essential Workers Village and utilizing the property of Meadows Elementary School. I feel like in the spirit of transparency and trust that we ask our community to have in the school board, the school corporation, I'd like to give notice that at our next public board meeting, I'm going to move to rescind the motion adopted January the 10th, 2022 to consolidate and repurpose Meadows Elementary School. I think it's worth more discussion than what we've given it. And it's just interesting to me how much we put a cart before a horse, already submitting for funding for the closure of an elementary school that had not been decided on by this board. Thank you.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please. Roll call for this. Sorry, Dr. Gordon.
Ms. Scott?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Irwin? Mrs. Killian?
Aye.
Mrs. Luer?
Aye.
Ms. Lauer?
Aye.
Dr. Powers?
This meeting is adjourned.